I would say the advantages of technology is in some ways and in a lot of ways it kind of thrusts society forward. It provides things for society that we've never had before, such as connectivity, such as easier life, such as things that we've never had the privilege of having before. Along with giving opportunities that we've never had before, it also provides some challenges that we've never had before. So sometimes technology can create more of a need that really is translated more of a want, right? It creates needs that we think we have, when in reality it can convolute the ease and the flow of life, and it can make things more challenging, to whereas we feel like we need this new product, we need this technology to help our lives. It actually just, because we have so much of it, it's just plugging up the system, and it's getting more challenging to have kind of that easy flow of a life. I think it can be. I think by nature, technology doesn't exist just to be unsafe, but in terms of social media, in terms of online connectivity, there are challenges that we've never had before because of the world that we live in, and because of the savviness of people who are very maybe not good people, right? So it can be very unsafe. They don't have to be unsafe, but we can become so comfortable with them because everybody has them, and because we spend so much time on them, that they very easily, before we even know it, can become unsafe. Anybody who's savvy with a computer can infiltrate some very private moments of your life, and where it started off as like a really cool, beneficial tool that can, again, help you in life. It's technology, right? That was why it was invented. It can very quickly transition into an invasion of privacy and a facade of you don't really know who you're talking to behind a screen,
Right.
I would say it's not the same at all.
Right.
I would say in kind of from my context especially, I believe that we were created for a purpose. We were created, uniquely. And I think that part of our creation, it cries out for relationship. And what's happening is, in fact, not to just, villainize a generation, but generation of teenagers now, Gen Z, spends so much time behind a screen, over the phone, that they are neglecting that crucial part of, I believe, the way we were created and our need to interact with each other. Aziz Ansari wrote a book about online dating that's applicable for this, is that people, millennials and younger, are losing their ability to literally create like normal social interactions, social cues, there's their ability to carry on a conversation. They're losing that because the majority of the conversations that they're having are through a phone. And I think eventually, if we're not careful, we're going to get to a point to where it's like a bunch of socially awkward people, you know what I mean? Because they feel so much more comfortable behind the screen, and they never look up from that screen, and they're neglecting on the world that's around them. When we get, and this is primarily in social media, but text messages, notifications on our phone, it releases endorphins in our brain. There is an addictive element to our phone, to our usage, to our social media presence. You know what I mean? Like every time we get some sort of acceptance or whatever online, there is a level of like, oh, we need this. I say, in the right context, yes. It gives you the ability to connect with anybody from, you can be on the opposite ends of the earth and be able to see their face, talk to them, see how they interact. So I'm grateful for FaceTime, right? But at the same time, if you're in the context of like a relationship that's in the same region as you are, it's not the same at all. There's also a mental thing behind being in the physical presence of someone. I'm talking about, like even if you're not a physical touchy person, just knowing somebody's in arm's distance, there's a comfort level there, right? There's an easier element of being vulnerable when you trust somebody and they're right here next to you, as opposed to just being over the phone. Some people's personalities are different, so some people don't like to be touched at all, don't like to be, comforted. But when we were all children, I don't know of one kid that didn't want their mom when they were upset, right? Or didn't want their dad when they're upset. It's ingrained into us that we need human contact and human interaction. I would say yes. I'm not in the camp that believes that nobody can use it. I feel very, very strongly that while they should be allowed to use it, to have it, there definitely should be some restrictions and some limits there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about teenagers who can drive, who are old enough to make decisions for themselves, still to have restrictions. I'm talking about myself as a 29-year-old man having restrictions on social media because, again, very easily, and sometimes we don't even pay attention, but we are transitioning into like, that is where we go for affirmation, for acceptance. You know, we constantly see how many people like it, you know, things like that. It just easily can contribute to such unhealthy behavior. The latest statistics I've read and heard, rather, is that the teenagers, Gen Zers, spend 8 hours a day behind a screen.
Right.
8 hours a day. That means during that 8 hours, they're getting little to no human to human, heart to heart, right, flesh to flesh, face to face contact with human beings. And again, I said it a minute ago, and I'll say it again, like, we are designed to have that, in my opinion. We are designed to flourish off of, you know, human contact.
How do you think you would regulate that then, like as a parent?
Yeah, I mean, as a parent, I would say this: a lot of conversations before even establishing social media. As well as, I think the only way it works, and this is where probably a lot of teenagers would disagree with me, I think parents have a right and really an obligation to be very invested with social media habits in a teenager's life. Because I've seen so many unhealthy tendencies happen. And now, I'm not going to villainize this, but because of Snapchat, parents don't know what's truly being downloaded and seen on their student's phone.
Right.
iPhones actually have limit restrictions that you can establish on the app to where they are passcode protected. So I've seen parents do that with teenagers who are spending too much time on there. Is once your hour is up, you can't do it anymore. You have to read or whatever. I think that's a very practical and easy way, but I think some restriction of some sort is 100% needed. Also, you read all the time that the majority of pornography is established through social media now for teenagers because it's accessible and because they're not getting checked up on and because they're not having normal conversations and dialogue with a guardian about it. And it's just, again, it can very easily become an unhealthy tendency and habit.
Right.
So.
Okay.
I say no, absolutely not. You cannot know them maybe like you think you do. There's a speaker that I listen to, he's a pastor, and he also is an author. And because he has a big online presence, a lot of people listen to his podcast, a lot of people read his books, a lot of people hear his voice. His name's Levi Lusko, if you want to research it or whatever. But he says because of his voice and because of his online presence or whatever, that people will often come up to him that are complete strangers and they will hug him. They will like invade his, kind of private. You've never seen this person before, never met them before, but they will come up and hug him and like feel a sort of closeness to him because they've heard his voice and because they've done this. In reality, their brain is tricking them into thinking that Levi Lusko, this pastor from Montana, right, they've only ever heard his voice or read his words, they think that they're friends because of his voice in their life. Your brain is tricking you into thinking that you actually know them. But in reality, obviously, Levi, he's never seen them. And the downside of that, too, and what I'm getting at is when that person who's never met Levi is going through a difficult time, because Levi's never met them, Levi's not going to be there for him. Does that make sense? If we think we know people online, but at the end of the day, if they're going through something, that person on the other end of the phone is not going to be there like you need somebody to be there.
The purpose of social media is to connect people from all different places. But do you think it's doing a better job at that or tearing people apart?
I think on the surface, social media brings people together because of the idea, like I'll give you an example. I've been out of high school for 10 years, but I know who's had a kid, right? I know who's still married from my high school class. Like, it's cool because I'm still connected with these people on one hand. And in that context, it's fine. But when you get past the surface of it, I think it is absolutely bringing people against each other and tearing people apart, in the words of the question. People are going now to social media for comparison. They are posting something, and then they're seeing who has liked it. They're going to their friends' profiles to see who liked their last post, right? It's just, by nature, social media presents opportunities to compare ourselves with other people. And again, that is the breeding ground of anxiety. That is the breeding ground of feeling like you're not good enough. Feeling like your identity is rooted in what people think of you or what people say about you rather than I believe in who God says you are, right? You know, to go there. That's just kind of my opinion of the context that I operate from. But the science behind it, and I would need to kind of research. I don't want to say anything that's untrue, but this is the way it's been explained to me: is that the endorphins that are released in your brain, on some level or another, are the same as you get when you like get high off of a drug.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's an addictive quality about it. The endorphins, that's what it is. And so I think that is why social media is ultimately doing more harm in a lot of teenagers than good. Because there's not enough moderation, there's not enough conversations about you can't go to social media for your affirmation and your acceptance, and there's an overwhelming rampant of comparison. Somebody's social media is basically a highlight reel of your life. And what we're doing is we're comparing our boring, mundane moments to somebody else's highlight reel. I believe it's contributed to a huge level of anxiety and a huge level of really depression. People feeling sorry for themselves.